For most parents, making decisions about a child's health and well-being is a deeply personal and closely held right. But in recent years, more than 24 states have taken steps to ban certain treatments that had been approved by major medical associations and used by doctors for years, if those treatments are given to minors who are transgender. Now, a Tennessee teenager and her parents are appealing to the Supreme Court, seeking to have those bans struck down. Tonight, in our Prime Focus, our Devin Dwyer sits down exclusively with that family for a look at the landmark case and how it could impact the estimated 300,000 teens in the U.S. who identify as transgender.
Else gonna get breakfast? Are you gonna get breakfast? If you're all playing. What is pop?
Poppy seed.
For Brian and Samantha Williams in Nashville, Tennessee, parenting is a labor of love.
I gotta back out with those cars in the way.
From the passenger seat to kitchen concert time, their unconditional love for their two teenagers is on full display, even when life presents surprises.
And I can't really point to a distinguishing point in my life when I realized that I wanted to be a woman.
16-year-old LW, who asked us not to show her face, came out to her parents as transgender when she was in 7th grade.
Well, I talked with my mom first because I was a little bit more comfortable talking to her about it.
Yeah, you were 12, almost 13.
What was that like to hear, Samantha?
Never in my wildest dreams would I have guessed.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Really, never.
Her family and community were supportive, but LW says that couldn't cure the pain she felt inside. A deep disconnect between her gender assigned at birth and her identity. Doctors call the distress gender dysphoria.
It was very horrible. Very horrible. It's not very comfortable being trapped in, because it just doesn't feel like you.
I did ask questions, like, and is this just a phase?
How did you resolve that it isn't?
Insistent, consistent, persistent. And that's what they use with kids and young adults to see, make sure this isn't a phase.
After months of doctor's visits and therapy sessions, LW and her parents decided to use medication to delay puberty. They worried that masculine changes to her body could compound the gender dysphoria.
There is this time clock sitting here going, the kid's going to go through puberty and it can have, permanent effects on them.
She's not suicidal, but she shouldn't have to be suicidal to get the care that she needs. When that really hit me, I was like, okay, let's do blockers. Let's get moving.
Major American medical associations have endorsed the treatments as part of individually tailored interventions to support trans kids and affirm their sense of self.
It needs to be part of a very deliberate process that involves medical specialists who are expert at doing this and, again, are following the science.
Clinical practice guidelines from the Endocrine Society, based on more than 260 research studies, recommend the use of puberty-delaying medications and waiting until a child reaches adulthood to consider gender-affirming surgery.
It allows time for a child to really be certain and for their parents and caregivers to really be certain. So there's nothing that's irrevocable there.
How quickly did you notice a difference, and what did you feel?
I think really the big difference was when I got on hormones. That was incredibly helpful. I feel amazing after that. And I'm pretty, maybe it's just because the gender dysphoria is so bad. Maybe I feel normal now.
But in 2023, Tennessee lawmakers moved to ban the treatments that LW was receiving.
Without objection, the motion to reconsider goes to table.
Citing contradictory scientific evidence and uncertainty about long-term harm.
The state of Tennessee has a compelling interest to protect kids.
Senator Jack Johnson, the GOP leader who sponsored the bill, says hundreds of Tennessee children were receiving treatments, though it's unknown how many suffered alleged harm.
Oftentimes, kids that are going through this difficult time, and I recognize that it is a difficult time, but they often grow out of this, they reach adulthood, and we want to keep them from making a decision that they regret later in life.
Your critics say your interest is in discouraging adolescents from identifying as transgender.
They are wrong. This is about whether or not someone at the age of 13, 14, 15 who has not reached adulthood should make a medical decision that is irreversible.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says the effects of puberty blockers are not permanent if treatment is discontinued. Many effects of hormone therapy can also be reversed, but long-term risks include fertility challenges and possible harm to bone density, but the group says those risks require further study.
Our state legislature had made such a big deal out of parental rights during COVID about masks and vaccines that parents should be able to decide these medical decisions for their children, and then this is a medical decision for our child.
And at this time, LW had been receiving these treatments for years.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about when we had all these conversations amongst ourselves, trying to figure out what we needed to do. And LW said something to me. She was like, I don't think you see me. And it broke my heart, you know? And I want to listen to the doctors, and I want to listen to my kid, and I want to take care of him, you know?
To keep receiving the treatments that were making LW's life better, the Williams family scrambled to find a clinic out of state. They found a doctor in North Carolina, 5 hours away. That state later banned the treatments too, but LW was grandfathered in under the law.
The Williams family here in Nashville, their daughter's been receiving treatment since 2021. The parents feel like you're taking away something that has dramatically improved the life of their child.
We made the policy decision on behalf of our constituents that in Tennessee, we think this is a risky procedure. It's unproven. The science is there are potential long-term consequences.
Shouldn't a parent and a child and a doctor be able to make that decision themselves?
When you look at the totality of the medical research, to me, there is more than enough uncertainty and evidence of bad outcomes for kids who've gone through these treatments when they reach later stages in life.
26 states have laws banning gender-affirming treatments for minors. Critics say they discriminate since the same drugs remain legal for kids who are not transgender.
What concerns me as a physician is that legislators are going to be able to make decisions about a diagnosis, which is very unusual.
Dr. Susan Lacey specializes in hormone management and transgender care for teens and adults at her private practice in Memphis. She says more research is needed, but that a debate over the data shouldn't deny patients the chance to make an informed decision of their own.
I think the most compelling thing is to listen to the patients. I probably have about 700 transgender patients of about 3,000 total patients. And I have not seen anybody have a serious complication, not one.
The other side calls these treatments experimental.
I would not call the medications experimental. I think we're just at a point where we're still in the process of treating people and having studies that will give us more and more data to support this treatment.
Dr. Lacey and the Williams family sued Tennessee last year, alleging its ban on gender-affirming care for minors violates the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear their landmark appeal this week.
What's your message to other trans teenagers out there?
When you do end up getting on gender affirming care and all that, not just are you going to feel better, you're going to enjoy it. It's worth it.
Our thanks to Devin Dwyer. The Supreme Court is scheduled to hear the family's challenge to the Tennessee law on Wednesday.